जय जय गणपति, जय गणपति, जय गणेश, जय गणपति, जय 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 गणपति, जय गणपति, जय गणेश, जय गणपति, जय जय गणपति विघ्न नाशनहारी, गणपति विघ्न विनाशनहारी, गणपति विघ्न विनाशनहारी, गणपति विघ्न विनाशनहारी। जय जय गणपति, जय गणपति, जय गणेश, जय गणपति, जय जय। लंबोदर पीतांबर सोहे, हरिमणि मुकुतना यन रत्नारी, लंबोदर पीतांबर सोहे, हरिमणि मुकुतना यन रत्नारी, गजमणिमाल गले बिज सोहे, गजमणिमाल गले बिज सोहे, बाल लाल में चंद्रकलावे, गणपति विघ्न विनाशनहारी, गणपति विघ्न विनाशनहारी, गणपति विघ्न विनाशनहारी, गणपति विघ्न विनाशनहारी। Hi, good morning all. Welcome to Co-Creating Your Reality, where we teach the natural law of attraction, how to attract the things that you deserve and desire in your life through these aligning with the spiritual laws of the universe, and also teaching these laws, right? So we also are teaching a crash course in sociology, where you will learn the fundamental concepts of true sociology and be awakened to the change that sociology is supposed to really bring about, because sociology is about social change. Nothing is ever constant in life. We are always changing, we are always evolving, right? As an individual or as a collective. So yesterday I would have initiated or started the course Sociology of Education, followed by sociology subsequent to doing 3 classes on the sociology of health, right? So I would have started discussing the sociology of education, placing moral education at the basis of any kind of education, right? Any type of education, before we go on to learning trigonometry, geometry, algebra, physics, chemistry, biology, right? Before we go on to learning any complex academic ideas or modes of thought, the first thing that one should do as an individual and as a parent, if you are a parent, is to lay the foundation by teaching what is moral law, laws of morality, right? How to become moral education, or how to become a moral human being, should be the basis for any other form of education that comes subsequent to that, right? So I would have used my own experiences and the experiences of people in my life to demonstrate aspects of morality in this 3D reality, or how we can take action towards morality in this 3D reality. I would have utilized people in my life to demonstrate this point in my previous video, which was the first video on the course of education, right? I will continue that discussion today and jump into one of the main perspectives in sociology. So having established truth or morality or moral education, we can go on to teach perspectives in sociology, right? So I'll just continue with that, with the third aspect of morality, true morality, and this 3D reality that we live in. Now, what is true morality? True morality is not causing harm to others, to yourself, to others, to other living creatures, right? Simple as that. Is no big maths, there's no big science behind doing what is right, right? There's no big maths, there's no big science behind doing that which is right. So I would have talked about the mortgage yesterday. I would have talked about the bank and the and vegetarianism and so on, not causing harm to other living creatures, animals, people. This also so this morality also includes withdrawing oneself from participation in organizations that inflict harm upon others, whether in a direct way or in an indirect way. So as I was saying, people might see people serving the government or allegiance to the state, allegiance to government in whatever sector, and this might come across as saying a high status job or an admirable job because of the nature of the work that you are perceived to be doing. But this is something that another person I came across in my master's class in sociology in one of my readings, by a writer called Hannah Arendt, right? You all can look up her work, and she would have discussed the concept of how ordinary men and women, ordinary people, just doing their jobs, right? Just doing their job in a seemingly innocent way, in a seemingly naive way, in a way that it seems that they are just executing or carrying out ordinary tasks, ordinary day-to-day tasks, right? How this actually contributes to a larger system of injustice, depending on the organization or the force which you serve, depending on the force in which employs you, the force which you serve, right? How regular, ordinary people who are actually good human beings actually become bad by virtue of carrying out simple, ordinary tasks with which they are not even aware that they are participating in a larger system of injustice. Or maybe they are aware, but they are aware in fact, because in fact they complain about these very systems, right? They are aware, right? But their own lack of courage and so on. I am saying this is not what Hannah said in her writings, right? I am saying this is lack of courage and so on is what prevents people from making that step as to withdrawing themselves from these systems that they repeatedly complain about, and so on. And so they continue to perform these ordinary tasks which contribute to a larger system of injustice, right? So withdrawing oneself from participation, and this is a direct route to attaining source consciousness, or returning to self, returning to God, returning to self on earth, right, is to align oneself with these principle of non-violence, the principle of non-violence, right? And everything that, as much as possible, because like I always say, it's impossible to eradicate all violence on earth, right? That is not a human possibility to eradicate all violence on earth. But as much as we are capable of doing to alleviate the violence on earth, do as much as possible as we humanly can, right? As we humanly can, to create moksha or heaven on earth, rather than waiting until we die to attain heaven or moksha or liberation or nirvana, as the Buddhist philosophy would say, or moksha as the Hindu philosophy would say, right? Rather than waiting until we are dead, or heaven as the Bible says, rather than waiting until we are dead to attain these things, realize that you can, through the pathway of non-violence, you can actually attain this, right? So withdrawing oneself, now, like I was saying, God would have placed me in a different environment so that I can experience different aspects of life and know where I stand where principle is concerned. Now, it is a very tempting thing here in England. I'm going to say this loud and clear. It's a very, very, very tempting thing here in England because of the kind of care and support. Remember, I was saying that my uncle is not well, right? And I'm here spending some time with my aunt and uncle in England. And the type of care, post-hospital care, home care, etc., that I have seen operating or emanating out of the system, right? Like I say, the care, the type of care is amazing, the people are amazing in terms of how they carry out their jobs and so on. Post-hospital care, medical care and so on, in terms of explaining and going into depth, into detail, and even support for families, for members who are ill. The type of care that is given is extra, is beyond, right? It's not anything like I've witnessed before, right? And it is tempting for me to say that, or think that maybe it's just the government of my country is just not doing their job right, right? It's a tempting thing to say that, right? But then I have to reflect and think back on the same thing I was talking about, in which Hannah Arendt would have spoke about, how ordinary people just carrying out their tasks actually contributes to this larger system of injustice. And I have to throw back myself always to that year of my real spiritual awakening, which was 2020, right, in which when coronavirus came around, and how easy it was for the same hospital system, the same government system, the same medical system to inflict so much injury upon the whole world, right? To inflict so much injury upon the whole world. And all it took was a little crisis for everyone to cower in fear and to turn to government for the solution. And government provided a solution that was a band-aid, short-term, and very poorly addressed solution, right? Very poorly addressed solution, which was one of force, one in which force and not force but violence was actually inflicted on the population by forcing people to take a substance, to inject themselves with a substance against people's free will, God-given free will, against people's God-given free will, right? And as I always say, and not only that, but forced to shut down the small business economies and only have larger business in operation, shut down all the small, it was a very unreasonable time, as you all would have recalled, a very illogical time period, right? And it was a period in which everybody was kind of forced to come to face to face with who they are at the core, and what do they value. What is your core philosophy? What do you value? What are the things or the principles that you truly value in this life, right? At the core, at the center of who you are, right? Is it freedom or is it slavery, right? So I am always thrown back to that year of my initial awakening, right? Due to the coronavirus experience, and in which the same medical team who are very caring now, they would have contributed by virtue of supporting this government slavery at that time. They would have contributed to this slavery via not standing up for that which was right, but rather standing up for protecting their salaries, protecting the things of this world, right? Protecting their personal interests rather than the interests of the freedom of everybody else, right? So whilst I am very tempted to say, oh, well, I actually support what the government is doing in this aspect, in this place, at this particular time, that is a very subjective thing, right? It's very subjective. It's based on my personal experience and it's not reflective of what government does throughout the world, especially the police who is attached to government, and even in the medical field and so on. It doesn't reflect what takes place throughout the world, right? As an objective reality. It doesn't reflect that. This is just my subjective opinion, and it is tied to my personal experience, right? Now, personal experience can be close to truth, or it cannot be, right? It can be close to truth, or it cannot be, right? So, I would have been placed in this environment, which is an opposing government experience, in which I'm experiencing here with I haven't had any police experience here, thank God, right? Thank God, right? But I've experienced through observation, the experience of the government healthcare, and it far surpasses that which I've seen before, but is not something still that I can truly say that I support, because it is connected to this larger system that I was just doing my job, and what are the damaging consequences of simply just doing your job, as with the police service and all these other institutions that are arms of the state, right? So today I just want to introduce this first topic of this first perspective in sociology, which is functionalism, right? Now, functionalism is a sociological perspective which basically says that we are all the institutions are like cogs in a wheel. So it gives an accurate actually description of how society is in present day society, right? Doesn't say what we can be, it says what we are right now, right? We are basically like cogs in a wheel. We as individuals and institutions are also like cogs in a wheel, right? So we function like nicely lubricated cogs in a wheel, and we just keep spinning, and each of us contribute to like a puzzle piece. We fit into each other, and we help society to function in a very neat and unobstructed way, right? So the family feeds into the schools, feeds into the education, feeds into the workplace, right? We are socialized so that we can go to school, develop social relationships, learn how to be a good employee, for the state, right? And so all institutions function very neatly together and meld neatly together to create a well-functioning and well-lubricated society, right? This is essentially the basics of what functionalism is. You don't need to go and spend a whole semester learning about functionalism, right? So basically what functionalism say is that, and you'll realize from what I'm about to say now how much of a shitty perspective it is, right? Which I always thought, right? I'm not a functionalist sociological theorist, right? But functionalism would say, how would functionalism view things like crime and so on? Functionalism would basically say that, hey, policemen need to exist, police officers need to exist. Crime need to exist. Crime in society, which is violence, crime is violence, right? Functionalism would say that crime needs to exist because we need to give police officers a job. How else will police officers have a job if crime doesn't exist? So even crime has a role in society, right? This is how much of a crappy perspective this is. Now, as a sociology teacher, I am not coming here to be neutral, right? Which is why probably again that I am not meant to fit into the education system mainstream, because they just teach perspectives and don't encourage people to choose something that is right, right? There would be sociology teachers, I guess they try to emulate scientists in the sense that they pretend to be neutral, right? And even scientists are not neutral, right? In fact, from the COVID-19 scenario, we saw how biased science is, right? But sociology tries to emulate the so-called scientific process, right? And tries to be, take a back step, let me just observe things. You are not doing anything good to the community, to the society, or to your students if you are just being this way. As a sociologist, I will be honest, that police raid that happened by me forced me to choose a side, right? Forced me to choose a side, because we are really in a spiritual war, we are called to fight in a righteous war, right? And that police raid that happened by me at home, right, it forced me as a sociologist and as a moral human being, right, to make a decision to not be neutral in times of injustice, right? So it wasn't based on that experience that I had would have forced me to reflect on all the things that police do, and I've observed police doing, right, to others as well, right? And prompted me to come here to do this whole video series as well. So as a sociologist, you are not, is not in the best interest to remain you just observing, right? You are just a passive observer, and you're just teaching perspectives. What is that really doing in terms of initiating change? What is that really doing in terms of initiating change in your students and in society, really? right? So it was real disappointing to know that this is England I have reached. I have been making videos since that police raid happened home for a whole year every day, right? For a whole year every day. And being A plus cream of the crop student in university sociology, right? One would have expected, right, that the university would have cooperated and all with me in joining forces to condemn what the state did, right? But the universities receive state funding, so they will never do that, right? Universities receive state funding, so they will never join forces with a regular ordinary citizen like myself. They would never, despite me being a cream of the crop student in their own organization, right? I would never receive the support from the university in times of injustice where the state would have inflicted violence on me, right? And that is why I have in my heart, at this point in my time, a little resentment towards even the university in which I would have gained my education, because I can't help it. I can't help but feel that way, right? Because the very organization at which I excelled academically, if they refuse to cooperate with me as an ordinary system to condemn that which the state did, and they taught, this is something that is taught theoretically, but why when it comes to when things happen practically, you all are silent about it. You all are silent about injustice when it happens practically, but you all teach about injustice every year repeatedly. Every year, right? I should not have to be fighting this fight alone when the police raided my home, and two experiences with the police that I would have had within a year, right? I am not supposed to be fighting this fight by myself, right? This is not supposed to be as a distinction master sociology student. I am not supposed to be fighting that fight by myself, but universities will not join the fight because they receive state funding, and that's just the overall bigger picture. Have a great day, everybody.